My name is Anna, I'm 37, and at a family dinner, my younger sister faked a pregnancy with my own husband to try and extort $250,000 from me. Before I tell you about the video I played on the living room TV that made her scream, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. It all began, as most of my family's deep-seated issues did, with a phone call from my mother that dripped with manufactured sweetness. I was at my office, the place that had become my sanctuary and my battleground, Aura Designs. It wasn't a massive corporation, but it was mine, built from nothing but sleepless nights, sheer grit, and a vision they never understood. It was nearly 10 p.m., and I was poring over the intricate blueprints for the Elysian Isles project, a sprawling, career-defining resort contract we were aggressively competing for. The scent of coffee and ambition was thick in the air, a stark contrast to the cloying perfume of family obligation that was about to seep through the phone. "Anna, honey," my mother's voice cooed, a clear tell that she was about to ask for something. "How's my favorite architect?" "I'm fine, Mom." "Just busy," I replied, the exhaustion in my voice a familiar baseline. "Trying to meet a deadline." "That's nice, dear." "Always so diligent," she said, though we both knew she considered my career a quaint but inconvenient hobby. "Listen, I'm calling about your sister. Jessica saw the most beautiful handbag today. It was a real classic, you know? The kind that says I'm a professional. It would do wonders for her confidence while she's looking for a job." I had to physically bite my tongue to stop the sigh from escaping. My sister, Jessica, now 34, hadn't engaged in a serious job hunt in her entire life. Her profession was being Jessica, the beautiful one, the charming one, the one with so much potential. While I was the reliable one, the boring one. The one who got good grades, built a business, and became the family's silent, unacknowledged financial pillar. Their unofficial ATM. This wasn't new. I remembered her 30th birthday when she decided she wanted to be a boutique owner. I'd given her a substantial loan for her startup, a lifestyle brand that folded in less than 6 months after she spent most of the capital on a lavish launch party. The loan was never mentioned again, just absorbed into the black hole of my family's expectations. "How much is the investment this time, Mom?" I asked, my voice flat. "Only a couple thousand, Anna. Think of it as investing in her happiness. When she feels good, she presents well. It could be the very thing that lands her a 6-figure salary. A 6-figure salary she had no qualifications for. But arguing was pointless. It was like arguing with the tide. It just wore you down until you gave in." I opened my banking app, the motions automatic, my finger hovering over the button with a familiar, dull ache of resignation. "Fine, Mom. I'll send it." As I hung up, a text from my husband, Tom, lit up my screen. "Still at the office? Don't work too hard on that little project of yours. Remember to eat something. Love you." That little project. He had no idea. Or maybe he didn't want to. This little project was a pitch to the Blackwood Group, a titan in the luxury real estate world. A contract worth a staggering $200 million. A deal that would catapult Aura Designs from a rising boutique firm into a major player. I'd kept the true scale of it under wraps, a secret I guarded fiercely. My family, Tom included, had a talent for diminishing my achievements. If I expressed excitement, they'd find a way to temper it with their own needs. "That's wonderful, honey, now you can afford to help us renovate the kitchen." Tom had grown particularly skilled at these microaggressions, making little jabs about my obsession with work, his insecurity a constant, low-grade hum in our marriage. It was just easier to let them think I was still playing in the minor leagues. The moment that shattered this fragile peace, the moment the world as I knew it fractured, came 3 days later. It was a Saturday. I was at home, tidying up, trying to find the warranty document for our new dishwasher. I remembered Tom mentioning he'd scanned it onto his tablet, which was lying on the coffee table, screen dark. I picked it up, my thumb swiping our shared passcode. At least, I thought it was shared. The device opened not to the home screen, but to his email inbox. And there it was. An email chain, open and waiting, as if fate had laid it out for me. The subject line hit me like a physical blow, the plan. My blood turned to ice in my veins. The sender was my sister, Jessica. I sank onto the couch, my legs suddenly unable to support me. My heart hammered against my ribs as I started to read. The room grew unnaturally quiet, the background noise of the television fading into a distant buzz. The words on the screen swam, then sharpened into daggers of betrayal. This wasn't just a simple, sordid affair. This was a conspiracy. A premeditated, cold-blooded plot to destroy and fleece me, laid out in meticulous, chilling detail. Jessica's email read, "Okay, so here's the final plan. The big family dinner is on Saturday. I'll do the whole I can't keep this secret anymore routine. I've got the fake test and a generic ultrasound pic from my friend at the clinic. I'll throw the test on the table and demand the $250K. Mom and Dad are primed to back me up. They'll lay the guilt on thick about family honor. I scrolled down, my hand shaking. She'll pay up, another email from Jessica read. The stupid cow will do anything to avoid a family scandal and protect her precious, perfect reputation. It's the least she can do after having everything handed to her. We deserve this, Tommy. A fresh start, away from her and her boring life. Everything handed to me? I thought of the all-nighters, the loans I took out, the social life I'd sacrificed for a decade to build my firm. Stupid cow. The term felt like a brand on my skin. Then I saw Tom's reply, and the final shard of hope in my heart turned to dust. You're a genius, Jess. She'll never see it coming. It's about time her salary did something actually useful for us. I'm so sick of hearing about her work. Once we get the money and leave, I can finally start my own business without her looking over my shoulder. No more asking for permission. We'll be free. I felt the air leave my lungs in a ragged gasp. A wave of nausea washed over me. I wanted to throw the tablet, to shatter it into a million pieces, to scream until my lungs burned. For years I had played the part of the dutiful daughter, the supportive wife, the generous sister. I had absorbed their passive aggression, paid their bills, celebrated their minor victories while they ignored my major ones. And this was my reward. To be seen as nothing more than an obstacle. A mark. A walking, talking bank account to be cracked open by the two people who were supposed to be my closest family. I sat there in the silence of our living room, the gray afternoon light filtering through the windows, and I felt something inside me break. It was a clean, sharp snap. The part of me that always made excuses for them, that always hoped they would change, died in that moment. And in its place, something new began to grow. The hot, messy grief of betrayal began to cool, to crystallize. It hardened into something cold, sharp, and diamond-hard. Resolve. The tears that had threatened to spill over dried before they could fall. The scream that had been building in my chest died in my throat. I picked up my own phone, my movements precise and deliberate. I didn't call my mother to scream at her. I didn't call a friend to cry. I scrolled through my business contacts to a number listed under PI services. A private investigator my firm had used for discreet due diligence on corporate clients. He was expensive, but he was the best. Mark, I said, my voice eerily calm when he answered. It's Anna. I have a job for you. It's personal. I need full surveillance on my sister, Jessica. I suspect she's about to commit a significant act of fraud. I need high-quality video and audio. Discretion is paramount. Invoice the usual corporate account. After the call, I stood up. I walked back to the coffee table, wiped my fingerprints from Tom's tablet, and placed it exactly where I'd found it. My hands were perfectly steady. The game was on. And I was going to win. A week later, the formal invitation came via a text from my mother. A special family dinner at their house. We're inviting the DeVises and the Millers, too, she'd added. It's been too long since we all got together. Of course they were. They weren't just setting a stage, they were building a theater. They wanted a full house for my public humiliation. Fine, I thought with a grim satisfaction. The more the merrier. The night of the dinner, the air in my parents' house was thick enough to cut with a knife, layered with the smell of my mother's overcooked roast and the cloying scent of deceit. My mother fussed over me, telling me I looked stressed and should take a vacation. My father clapped Tom on the back, loudly proclaiming what a stand-up guy he was for facing the music. Tom, for his part, was a masterclass in feigned guilt. He couldn't meet my eyes, he fidgeted with his napkin, he offered to get me a drink with a funereal solemnity. It was nauseating. Jessica was the star of this tragic opera. She wore a loose, empire waist dress and cradled her perfectly flat stomach as if it held the crown jewels. She spoke in a soft, weary voice and made a great show of refusing a glass of wine. "Oh, no, not for me," she'd sighed, giving me a pointed look. My Uncle Robert, my mom's brother, was the only one who seemed immune to the toxic atmosphere. He was a quiet, no-nonsense contractor who'd always treated me with the respect my own parents reserved for Jessica. He pulled me aside near the kitchen. "Kid," he said in a low voice, his brow furrowed with concern. "You look like you're walking into an ambush. You need anything, an escape route, you just give me the signal." I gave his arm a grateful squeeze. "Thanks, Uncle Robert. I've got it under control." He looked skeptical but nodded, a silent ally in a room full of enemies. The appetizers were cleared away. The small talk died down. My mother cleared her throat, the prearranged signal. It was showtime. Jessica pushed her chair back, a single, perfect tear rolling down her cheek as she stood. I can't live with this lie anymore," she choked out, her gaze fixed on me. "It's not fair to anyone." Then, right on cue, she reached into her designer handbag, the one I'd paid for, pulled out the white plastic stick, and threw it onto the center of the table. It landed with a clatter next to the butter dish. 2 pink lines glowed under the dining room chandelier. "Pay for your husband's mistake," she shrieked, the fragile facade shattering to reveal the raw, demanding greed beneath. Her voice was shrill, echoing in the suddenly silent room. Mrs. Davis, our neighbor of 20 years, actually flinched. My father slammed his fist on the table, making the silverware jump. "This is about the family's honor, Anna. Tom made a terrible mistake, but Jessica is your flesh and blood. She is carrying his child. Your child, in a way." My mother erupted into theatrical sobs. "You have to help her, Anna. Think of the shame, the gossip. We need $250,000 for her to go away quietly, to have this baby without ruining her life and this family's name. It's your responsibility. Your duty." Tom, the picture of a broken man, stared at his plate and mumbled, "I'm so sorry, Anna. I'll pay you back every cent, I swear it." A bald-faced lie. The emails had detailed their plan to take the money and move to another state, changing their numbers. Every eye in the room was on me. The DeVises and Millers looked mortified, desperate to be anywhere else. My Uncle Robert's face was a stony mask. They were all waiting. Waiting for the tears, the accusations, the inevitable, weary surrender. They were waiting for me to do what I had always done, clean up their mess, pay their price, and quietly swallow my own pain. But the Anna they knew was gone. She had been incinerated in the fire of their betrayal. I didn't glance at the pregnancy test. I didn't look at my hysterical mother or my performatively angry father. I didn't even spare a glance for my pathetic, cheating husband. My gaze was locked on Jessica. Slowly, with a calmness that felt alien even to me, I picked up my wine glass. I took a long, deliberate sip of the deep red Cabernet, letting the silence in the room stretch until it was taut and humming with tension. I set the glass down softly. A small, chilling smile touched my lips, a smile that held no warmth, no forgiveness. A child? I said, my voice even conversational, a stark contrast to the high drama they had orchestrated. Well, that is wonderful news. The effect was instantaneous. My calmness was a bucket of ice water on their fiery performance. It wasn't in the script. Jessica's eyes widened, a flicker of genuine confusion crossing her face. My father's jaw went slack. Jessica, I continued, my voice dangerously soft as I leaned forward. Are you absolutely certain you've thought this through? All the little details? Because a baby, that's a lifelong commitment. You need to have a solid plan. Her bravado, momentarily shaken, returned with a vengeance. Of course I have. This is my life we're talking about. My future. My baby's future. I see, I said, nodding slowly. Well, before we start discussing any financial arrangements, any talk of a college fund or custody, I have a little something I'd like to share. A sort of early baby shower gift. To celebrate this new family memory we're all making together. I pulled my phone from my purse. My hand was as steady as a surgeon's. I tapped the screen, activating the screen mirroring function. The large smart TV mounted on the living room wall, which had been showing a muted football game, flickered to black. Everyone in the room instinctively turned to look. Just a short home video, I announced to the captive audience. But the image that filled the 65-inch screen was not a home video. It was a crisp, high-definition recording from a fixed camera, timestamped 3 days prior. The location was a corner booth in a noisy downtown coffee shop. The subjects were my sister, Jessica, and a woman in nurse's scrubs. The audio, captured flawlessly by Mark's professional-grade equipment, was shockingly clear, cutting through the ambient noise of the cafe. Are you sure it's untraceable? Jessica's voice, sharp and conspiratorial, filled my parents' living room. Positive, the nurse on the screen replied, her voice tinny through the TV speakers. It's a prop test from a movie set supplier. It's designed to always show positive. And this ultrasound picture is a generic one from my files, we use them for training. Just be sure to pay the rest of what you owe me. The video then showed, in excruciating detail, my sister Jessica sliding a thick envelope of cash across the table. Her face on screen was smug, triumphant. Don't worry, she laughed, a sound that was now grotesque. My sister, the stupid cow, is good for it. She's a walking ATM, too busy playing with her little blueprints to see what's right in front of her. A strangled, guttural sound escaped my mother's throat. My father's face had drained of all color, leaving it a pasty, sickly gray. Tom looked like he had been turned to stone, his fork halfway to his mouth. The Devises and Millers were staring, jaws agape, their faces a perfect mural of shock and secondhand shame. Jessica let out a piercing shriek, a sound of pure animal panic. That's fake. It has to be. It's a deep fake. She's trying to frame me, she screamed, pointing a trembling, accusing finger at me. She's a monster. She's always been jealous of me. Jealous of me and Tom. She's trying to ruin my life because she's a cold, heartless career woman who could never give him a real family. Her frantic denials were a chaotic mess of lies, a desperate attempt to claw her way out of a grave she had so meticulously dug for herself. It was pathetic. And it was exactly what I was waiting for. I let her tirade burn itself out. Then, I stood up. The room fell silent once more, the only sound Jessica's ragged sobs. My voice, when I spoke, was not loud, but it commanded the attention of every person in that room. It was the voice of a CEO, a founder, a woman who was done being underestimated. Enough, Jessica. I turned my attention from her crumpled form to my parents and my husband. You know, for years, you've all belittled my work. My little job. My dinky company. I locked eyes with my father. You asked me tonight what my company could possibly do compared to the importance of family honor. I let his words hang in the air, heavy and poisoned. Well, Dad, that dinky company is named Aura Designs. And last week, Aura Designs signed an exclusive, $200 million contract with the Blackwood Group to be the lead architectural firm for the entire Elysian Isles resort. A collective gasp sucked the remaining air out of the room. It was a physical sound. Tom's head snapped up, his eyes wild with disbelief and a sudden, sickening wave of calculation. The gears were turning. The numbers were adding up. The Blackwood project, he stammered, his voice cracking. You told me you lost the bid. You said they went with a bigger firm. I told you what you wanted to hear, I said, my voice devoid of any emotion. I told you what a man who felt threatened by his wife's success needed to hear. The same man who, last month, was pressuring me to make him a partner in my small firm. I paused, letting that detail sink in. A client like Mr. Blackwood, who is now my primary business partner, is pathologically obsessed with security and discretion. The private investigator who provided me with that video? He's on retainer with my company. We vet everyone. We see everything. The trap had not just sprung, it had annihilated them. The looks on their faces were a gallery of ruin. It wasn't just the lie being exposed anymore. It was the colossal, tectonic shift in their understanding of reality. The person they had treated as a provincial doormat, a convenient resource to be plundered, was in fact the architect of a world they couldn't even begin to imagine. They hadn't just tried to scam a sister. They had tried to swindle a queen in her own court, and they had failed spectacularly. In the stunned silence, my Uncle Robert began to clap. A slow, deliberate, rhythmic clap that was more powerful than any shout. It was the sound of validation. He was smiling, a real, genuine smile, his eyes filled with a pride I had thirsted for my entire life and never received from my own parents. The DeVises and Millers, our lifelong family friends, scrambled to their feet. I think we should be going now, Mary, Mr. Davis mumbled to his wife, not looking at anyone but me, his expression a mix of pity and awe. They scurried out the door as if fleeing a contagion. I let the silence settle before I delivered my closing statement. My mother finally found her voice, a desperate, wheezing whisper. Anna, please, we can fix this. We're family. Families make mistakes. I looked at her, and the last vestiges of the daughter who craved her approval vanished. A family doesn't do this, I said, my voice soft but unyielding. A family doesn't plot and conspire. It doesn't use love as a weapon. I turned to my father, who was sputtering, You owe this family. We raised you. No, I replied calmly. My debt was paid in full years ago, through every bill I covered, every loan I forgave, every insult I absorbed. The account is closed. I looked at Jessica, a weeping heap on the floor. The police will be very interested in this video as clear evidence of felony fraud and extortion. You should expect a call. Finally, I turned to Tom. His face was ashen. The dawning horror of what he had so carelessly thrown away was a terrible thing to witness. You will be hearing from my lawyer in the morning, I said, my voice crisp and final. We will be discussing the terms of our divorce. I walked over to the small mahogany table by the front door. I took out the keys to my parents' house, the house I had been helping them pay the mortgage on for the last 10 years, and placed them on the polished surface. A final, quiet act of severance. Then, I turned my back on all of them and walked out the front door into the cool night air. I didn't run. I didn't look back. I just walked away from the wreckage of my old life. 6 months later, I stood on a brightly lit stage in a massive convention hall, a discreet microphone clipped to my blazer. The spotlight was warm on my face. I was delivering the keynote address at the Women in Architecture National Conference. I wasn't talking about 9-figure contracts or my firm's explosive growth. I was talking about worth. There will be people in your life, I said, my voice resonating through the auditorium, who will try to put you in a box. A good daughter box. A supportive wife box. A know your place box. They will tell you your ambitions are too big, your dreams too impractical. Your job is not to shrink to fit their boxes. Your job is to build your own house. A house so magnificent and so strong that those boxes shatter against its foundation. After the standing ovation, as people mingled and networked, a young woman with bright, eager eyes approached me. She clutched a portfolio to her chest like a shield. Ms. Anna? I'm Maya. I'm the first ever recipient of the Aura Designs Build Your World Scholarship. My heart did a little flip. I'd started the scholarship fund a few months ago, pouring a significant sum into an endowment for talented young women from underprivileged backgrounds who wanted to enter the field. It was my way of turning my pain into a legacy. It's a pleasure to meet you, Maya, I said, smiling warmly. Your speech, what you said about the boxes, thank you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. My family, they don't get it. They say I should be more practical, that architecture isn't for people like us. I looked at this brilliant young woman, and I saw a reflection of the girl I used to be. I placed a hand on her shoulder. Maya, don't you ever let anyone convince you that your passion is impractical, I told her, my voice firm. Practicality is building the life you want, not the one others expect of you. Go out there and build empires. In that moment, by lifting her up, I felt a piece of my own past finally heal. Later that night, I was back in my own space, a minimalist penthouse apartment overlooking the glittering expanse of the city skyline. It was a space that was entirely mine, filled with clean lines, open air, and quiet. On my large central work table sat the completed scale model of the Elysian Isles Resort, a miniature world of beauty and precision. My phone didn't ring with panicked calls from my family anymore. I had blocked their numbers months ago. They were ghosts, fading figures from a life that no longer belonged to me. The burning anger had cooled, replaced by a vast, tranquil peace. My freedom hadn't been won in that single, explosive moment of revenge. It had been won in the 1,000 quiet moments that followed, the decision to walk away, the courage to build a new life, the choice to turn my scars into a source of strength for others. I picked up the final piece of the architectural model, a tiny, perfectly rendered replica of the main guest lodge, and slotted it gently into its designated place. The project was complete. My new life, my real life, was just beginning. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It wasn't easy to share, but I truly hope it can offer some strength to anyone out there who feels trapped, used, or undervalued. My question for you today is, have you ever had to make the difficult, painful decision to cut a toxic person out of your life in order to save yourself? Please share your experience in the comments below. I read them all. And if my story resonated with you, please give this video a like and subscribe for more.